You probably already know that Tom Cruise is an absolute madman when it comes to doing his own stunts in films. But when you take a closer look and examine all the precautions that were put in place by the production team to ensure his safety, you'll quickly realize that Tom Cruise is even crazier than you thought. Welcome to the TOMP YouTube channel, I'm Jimmy Youthy, and these are the most insane stunts of Tom Cruise's career so far. The other day when I was looking up information for this video, I stumbled upon an excellent article by Ben Kenningsberg of the New York Times. In the article, he asks Christopher McQuarrie to rank Tom Cruise's most extreme stunts from the two most recent Mission Impossible films, Rogue Nation and Fallout. For those of you who don't know, Christopher McQuarrie is the director of both of those films and is currently working on the series' next entry as well. I'll put the link to that article down in the description for those of you who are interested. Anyway, McQuarrie went on to rank the stunts in order of what he called inherent danger, what Kenningsberg describes as essentially risk multiplied by the time that Mr. Cruise was exposed to that risk. So here's the plan for the video. We'll start off by going through McQuarrie's rankings from the times he worked with Cruise. Then I'll touch on a few notable stunts that Cruise did on his other films. Hold on to your harnesses, it's stunt time. McQuarrie chose the underwater sequence from Mission Impossible Rogue Nation as the fifth most dangerous stunt that he and Cruise have executed together. In the scene, Tom Cruise's character Ethan Hunt must switch out a file in an underwater security system. With only 10 days to shoot the sequence, McQuarrie decided that the only way to get it done on schedule was to shoot the scene in longer continuous takes, the duration of which Tom Cruise would need to be acting and holding his breath for long periods of time underwater. McQuarrie describes how it put a big burden on Tom. He said, "You and I can hold our breath for a minute, maybe 2 minutes. The minute you start exerting yourself, you consume oxygen at a much higher rate," which meant for Tom that to be able to hold his breath from anywhere from a minute to the 2.5 minutes that each take required, he would have to learn how to hold his breath for much longer. Cruise trained with an extreme diver until he could hold his breath for up to 6.5 minutes. 6.5 minutes. In the interview, McQuarrie states how Cruise was exhausted all the time and how this stunt really put a severe physical toll on him. If you're expecting the stunts on this list to get less ridiculous as we go on, don't hold your breath. Fourth on McQuarrie's list is the motor chase scene from Mission Impossible Fallout. The initial idea for this sequence was to use safety rigs, because, you know, that's the sensible thing to do. However, they couldn't get them to work. Now, they could have just used some CGI, some clever editing to get a passable result, but Tom Cruise was like, "Nah, man, I got this. I'll just get on my motorcycle here, and I'll just, drive it at speeds upwards of 100 miles per hour on wet cobblestone as I bob and weave through other cars, because, that's safe." And, those other cars, they're gonna be piloted by local stunt drivers, from France, who their English, is their second language. So there's gonna be some miscommunication. They're gonna be at the wrong spots at times. I'll just avoid them. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Obviously, he didn't actually say any of that. Well, maybe, but he didn't need to because he's Tom Cruise and he's insane. Number 3 is the skydiving sequence from Mission Impossible Fallout. This scene is an absolute technical wonder from a production standpoint. The sequence is broken up into 3 segments. First, Tom Cruise jumps out of the plane. For this part, the cameraman had to jump out of the plane in reverse right before Tom Cruise did. Then Cruise had to jump out of the plane and fall to exactly within 3 feet of the cameraman. If he's only an inch or 2 off, he'll be out of focus and they'll have to redo the entire jump. During the second part of the scene, Cruise searches for Henry Cavill's stunt double. Yeah, Henry Cavill has a stunt double because he's not a lunatic. The final part of the sequence is when Tom Cruise disconnects his oxygen tank and reconnects it to the oxygen mask of Henry Cavill's stunt double. This part was especially challenging because it pushed the limit of how much acting Cruise could do before he and the other skydivers fell to the minimum safe altitude where they would have to pull their chutes. In total, the production team made 106 different jumps in order to get the footage they needed to make a sequence that doesn't even last 3 minutes. On top of that, they only had a 3-minute window each day when they could shoot because the scene took place at dusk. In other words, they could only shoot 1 take per day, so there was a lot of pressure to not mess it up. Fortunately for Tom and company, the scene looks amazing.
You know what? I think it was excellent.
Runner-up on McQuarrie's list is the time when Tom Cruise hung off the side of a freaking airplane as it took off during the beginning sequence of Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. If you remember the promotional material leading up to this film's release, Paramount really pushed this stunt as the craziest thing Tom Cruise, or anybody had ever done. Because let's be honest, it probably was. And it's only number 2 on this list. When McQuarrie and his production team approached an aviation company called Airbus about making this sequence, they told them it would be impossible. Mission impossible. At least that's how I hoped they phrased it. Nevertheless, Cruise and the production team were able to pull off the stunt, but not without putting Cruise at risk. Though Cruise was attached to the plane with the safety harness, had the pilot accidentally over-accelerated, the harness would not have been able to keep Cruise secured to the plane. Yeah, that would not have been good. In reality, the most dangerous and legitimate threat to Tom Cruise was something colliding with him at super high speeds. The crew worked diligently to clean off the runway so nothing kicked up and hit Tom Cruise as they were taking off. Despite their effort, a pebble did kick up and hit Tom Cruise, which he said felt like getting shot. Meanwhile, McQuarrie feared that a bird was gonna run into Tom Cruise, which he said would have been like a cannonball. Thank goodness that did not happen. The real tragedy here is that they pulled off all this amazing stunt work just for it to be followed up by this pretty bad VFX shot. What could be more insane than hanging off the side of an airplane, you ask? How about personally flying helicopters extremely close to other helicopters? In preparation for the climactic sequence of Mission Impossible Fallout, Cruise trained for 16 hours a day for 6 weeks to learn how to fly a helicopter. 16 hours a day. Like I mentioned, the scene called for Tom Cruise to fly extremely close to other helicopters, sometimes just within a few feet. Not to mention, he was flying through really tight canyons too. McQuarrie described it as like flying through a broom closet. And he was doing all these crazy downward spirals that were super advanced even for like good helicopter pilots. Insane. And I love this quote from Christopher McQuarrie. He's like, if me and the production team knew what it was going to take to pull off this helicopter sequence, we would never have started. And then he goes on to say that Tom, was having the time of his life. Christopher McQuarrie's top 5 list is quite the top 5 list, if you ask me. Especially when you consider that, the stunt where Tom Cruise breaks his freaking foot didn't even make the cut. Well, it made the cut of the movie. The shot you see in the movie is actually Tom Cruise hobbling with a broken foot.
It's one of those things. I'm supposed to have that level of impact hitting the wall. I just put my foot out, tried to soften the impact. I knew instantly it was broken.
He knew, I have to finish this because we're not coming back, and pulled himself up to get the shot.
But what are some other notable stunts of Tom Cruise's career? Well, of course, there's the time he was climbing up the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, for Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Then there was the time he was rock climbing 2,000 feet above the ground in Utah for Mission Impossible 2. And finally, Tom Cruise actually came close to being decapitated on the set of The Last Samurai. There's a scene in the film where Cruise duels his co-star Hiroyuki Sanada with katanas on top of mechanical horses. During one of the takes, Tom Cruise's mechanical horse didn't stop where it was supposed to. Sanada recounted the incident to Daily Mail, stating, "Tom's neck was right in front of me, and I tried to stop swinging my sword, but it was hard to control with one hand." The film crew watching from the side all screamed because they thought Tom's head would fly off. Fortunately, Tom Cruise still has his head, it just might not be screwed in all the way. In conclusion, Tom Cruise is absolutely nuts, but wildly entertaining and probably should be dead. Also, the man doesn't age. He's 58 years old. Overall, I'm giving Tom Cruise a Tom Brokaw for his dedication to his craft. Congratulations, Tom. You deserve it, you crazy son of a gun. Don't understand what it means to be awarded the high honor of a Tom Brokaw Award? Then you don't listen to my podcast. Go check it out. The link will be in the description. I think the greatest Tom Cruise stunt of all is stunting his own growth. I'm also short. Let's be real though. If someone's gonna live forever, it's gonna be Tom Cruise. Thanks for watching. I'm Jimmy Youthy, and I'll see you next time.